Ajax 5, Celtic 1. That was unbelievably poor from Celtic. An unbelievably poor game. How can we go from the highs of being in such good form and in such a good position when it comes to the game against Newcastle, and we're now so bad? How could we? That was a wake up call. Tonight was a wake up call. That was Champions League qualifier standard game that we met against Ajax tonight, and Ajax were no mugs. They were a fantastically good team, but Celtic were really, really poor. Celtic started the game with Schmeichel, Ralston, Murray and Scales. I don't think that Dane Murray did too much wrong. Scales is a fantastic player, but he was at fault for a couple of things tonight. His shirt pulling, his hand round the neck of a player on various occasions, I think didn't help his team out at all. I think that the formation, I have no idea what happened to the formation tonight. We played a fantastic 4-2-3-1 formation against Newcastle United. I think that, CCV, it's his first game back in pre-season. You can't say a guy's terrible in his first game back in pre-season. You've given him a chance. The rest of the team are a month ahead of him in game time and in training. Ralston can't play in European or Scales. No, Jamesy boy. I've no idea what Brendan Rodgers is trying to do, but he played Scales in the inverted fullback position that Greg Taylor played. And all Ajax did was target the right back position. The right back position, they targeted it and they knew it was the weak point. Malcolm says the warnings have been there since Rangers beat us at home and Aberdeen won the cup. Still no investment from the board. I don't want to get too reactionary to the transfer window and stuff, because there is still a month and a bit to go. There's 5 weeks to go in the transfer window. We've got 5 weeks to sort it. We don't. The reality is we don't. We have 2 weeks to sort it. For me, there was a deadline when we went to Portugal and Brendan Rodgers would want all his players in for pre-season so they can get the game time. We're now going into the last two. Well, we've got one game left. One game left in pre-season this year to get players up to speed with the way that Brendan Rodgers wants us to play. And if this is anything to go by, we are not going to make the Champions League. We're going to be watching Europa football on a Thursday night. And there's a possibility that we're heading into a season of managed decline and the manager will walk at the end of the season. Maybe that's a bit overreactionary due to the fact that we were so bad. No, it's not. We were bad tonight. We were bad. You can't butter it up anyway. We were bad. It's as simple as that. Everything that was good about Newcastle, the game at Newcastle United, the one-touch pass. Brendan Rodgers said before the game, this team will press us. They'll be man-marking us. We need to overcome that. We didn't. Brendan Rodgers knew the tactics that Ajax would play, and he didn't compensate for it. Now, he tried to compensate for it by taking Benji out of the holding midfield role and put him further up front to try and create a little bit of whatever. But to me, Benji was just playing out of position, and I wouldn't go that far, Super Mac. I wouldn't go that far. I think Celtic will still win the league, but there's a lot of business to be done over the next couple of weeks. For the fact that we got absolutely humbled by Ajax, it's not. You can't butter it up any other way. This game and the game at the weekend are warm-up games for the Champions League qualifier. This is the level of quality that we're going to play in the Champions League qualifier. This would give us an indication tonight how ready we are for the Champions League qualifier. We failed miserably. If this was a Champions League qualifier, we are out. In the first leg, we are out. It's as simple as that. And it's devastating and it's disappointing. And there's so many things that you could say, but there's not one thing that you can pinpoint to why we were so bad. Taking Kieran Tierney off at half time, bringing in Amuro on just to get him game time. Brendan Rodgers will say that that's managing the game time of the players. Dyson Maeda, he doesn't look interested. He doesn't have that same enthusiasm. I think Dyson's got one eye on a move. I'm going to say it. And I hope I'm wrong. But if we lose Dyson Maeda before the end of the transfer window, I mean, imagine bringing on Marco Tilio with 2 minutes to go. You've got to laugh. Deborah says, I'm sorry, my opinion is get rid of Adamida. So many chances you can't miss. Yep. Adamida doesn't look interested. Karsper, Ralston, Scales, Kalmak, Hatate, Maeda, all stinking tonight. I think Kalmak gets undue pressure. Maybe Brendan Rodgers is not interested. On that performance tonight, we need loads of players for the Champions League qualifier. Yeah, and I mean, I can understand why there's so many. A lot of them didn't look interested, Baz, says Del Scott. I hate being overcritical, but that was absolutely rank rotten tonight. And you can't butter it up in any way. Brendan Rodgers now has to go to the board. When he gets back on Monday, the board will be sitting watching this tonight. In fact, I bet the board don't even watch games. I bet when they're sitting at home, because the board, the PLC, all the board boys don't travel over to Italy for this, for a wee pre-season jolly. And I bet they're not even watching the game on the telly, on Celtic TV. They'll be at some fucking restaurant or some. Ajax were a step above Newcastle and we struggled to keep up with the game where we did. And if this is a Champions League qualifier, Kalmak isn't at number 6 at European level. That's why he was stinking. Callum's getting a lot of stick, but where was Benji? We're meant to be. We played against Newcastle a 4, a 2, a 3, a 1. You had Benji sitting with Callum and we played fine. Benji was further up the pitch. Why? Was he out of position? Was he told to go out there by Brendan Rodgers? You know, there's something happened. And why was Tony Ralston Tony Ralston playing as an inverted wing back? Never. He's played for Scotland for years, and he gets up and down the wing. He stays to the byline is Tony Ralston's place, not the middle of the park. Not trying to make a diagonal run and past a winger. Brendan Rodgers, this lies on your doorstep. This result lies with you tonight. The formation changes within the game, the tactical changes within the game. This is where you're going to be judged this season, is Champions League. And if you fuck up the Champions League qualifier, I will say it's time for Brendan to go. I will say it's time for him to go. Because we need to get someone in as quick as possible to change things for next season. And so that we've got them in playing the different style of football. And, you know, maybe people might say it's overreactive. When you get a tanking like that as a warm-up to a Champions League qualifier game, if this is the quality that we're going to face in the Champions League qualifier, Are any of you convinced that we will get through? I don't think so. Brendan Rodgers would never ask KT to do what it got Ralston to do. No, he wouldn't. Because Kieran Tierney would go, fuck off, mate. I'm not going in the middle of the park. Scales should never be near the team. If it was a proper game, he would have been red carded. Yep. Big Rocky should never have been allowed to leave. Well, he has, so we can't talk about it. There's no use talking about it. The whole style of play needs to change. Rotten shit. Different same season. The board are sitting on their arses, says Football Life. Casper at times was appearing to look like somebody to pass back to as well. Yeah, Stephen. Yep. Go and get Cesc Fabregas. We need a manager like Cesc Fabregas. Never mind talking about Scott Brown, talking about ex-players. We need something new at Celtic. But at the same time, Cesc Fabregas has just been given 17 million to go and buy Nico Kuhn. Celtic will not release that kind of money to Brendan Rodgers to go and buy a decent replacement for Nico Kuhn. Ali Boy says the boards are to blame. Brendan Rodgers is pissed off. He wanted players of quality before these games came around. Yeah, I'll give you that. The Cracks have been appearing since March. Time for Rodgers to go. Rodgers sold 2 of our best defenders and left us with Scales. High press we could never handle it. Yep, Danny, I said we needed 5 players, and Paul, if we lose the Champions League qualifier, yes, we do. But then we also need a new board. Because the board's at fault for not getting Brendan the players in that we need. So, will a change of manager make things better? No, because we're going to go and get a mediocre manager. If we lose Brendan Rodgers, we'll get a mediocre manager and then we'll go through another season of managed decline just to keep money in the bank. Why I was surprised, same players, same attitude, awful defending. Show Adam Ida how to hold up the ball. Scales isn't good enough. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Rodgers is on a profit. Yeah. John Shirley, also, why the fuck you never buy a goalkeeper? We've got a fantastic goalkeeper in Sinasalo. The distribution from the back from Sinasalo is 100 times better than Kasper Schmeichel. I've said that since last season, and I still stand by that. Sinasalo passes the ball out quicker from the back. He does everything quicker than Kasper Schmeichel. His pinpoint accuracy for passing is better. His pace is quicker. His agility is better. Kasper Schmeichel gives you experience, but he's at the end of his career, and I'm sorry, but sometimes when a keeper's at the end of their career, their decision making isn't as good. And at least hats off to Joe Hart. Hats off to Joe Hart, because Joe Hart knew his time was coming up, and Joe Hart went, you know what, I'm going out on a high. Kasper should have went, do you know what, I've done the double, I'm going to call it quits and go somewhere else. But Brendan went, nah, Kasper, we need you. Fucking, come on, mate, me and you, we'll take on the world. Scales can't be a centre-half partner for CCV, honestly, it's not good enough. Yeah, he's not. I don't want Adam Ida or Scales to play for the Republic Island ever, never mind Celtic. Take the hit on Adam Ida and let him go for 4 or 5 million. One bad half and the champions are shite, I am off, said Seamus. One bad half. Did you watch the game? We were shite. we were terrible for 90 minutes. It wasn't just one half. We were terrible the whole game. Don't say it. I'm going to be McGregor needs rotated. Yeah, we know McGregor needs rotated, and I think the player that he should be rotated with is Paulo Bernardo. Paulo Bernardo is a fantastic player, and we need to use him or we'll lose him. We need to use Paulo Bernardo. He's a fantastic player, and you can't have an under-21 captain of the national team, of a Portuguese national team, playing second fiddle, because he's a cracking player. He is. Get Miller into the youth. Get Miller and more of the youth into midfield. Not a chance, Stephen, because we'll get annihilated in Europe. Bernardo's better than Engels. I think that Engels plays the further forward position better. Paulo Bernardo is more Callum McGregor's replacement, or play Paulo Bernardo in the second hold midfield player rather than Benji. And I don't know what position Benji was playing in tonight. He was all over the pitch and he didn't really do anything of any substance. Engels is guff. Paulo Bernardo not getting a game. He is the best midfield. I think he is. There's a lot worse than Casper in this team. I'm not praising Schmeichel in any way. Bernardo was absolutely shocking in the Scottish Cup final. I think everyone was shocking in the Scottish Cup final, to be fair. Not just Paulo Bernardo. Engels is only going to get better. He'll have an amazing season this year, says Danny. John Shirley says, another thing, Baz, does Calmac know Wikiti is the next captain? I think he will know that. McGregor wasn't taking the ball off half turn tonight. His first thought was backwards. I think that's because the game against Newcastle, you've got your two central defenders here, you've got your full-backs here, you've got your two holding midfield players here. Callum had space to do stuff. You know, you had Benji in this position taking a bit of pressure off Calmac, which was allowing him to turn and get the ball forward and stuff, and it just wasn't happening tonight. Paul Bear says Brendan Rodgers is stealing a wage. Engels is guff. Big year for him. My biggest worry is we don't seem to be motivated since February. Is Johnson injured? No, Johnson's just back in pre-season since Monday. He's just back into pre-season since Monday. He was given time off after being away with Canada on international duty. In the beginning of July, he was given 2 weeks off to go and get married. High earners stealing a wage. I don't think it's high earners stealing a wage. I think it's high earners not understanding and not having the quality to play the formation that Brendan Rodgers would ultimately want us to play. If anyone's stealing a wage at Celtic, it's John Kennedy. I'm going to say it. If there's anyone stealing a wage at Celtic, it's John Kennedy. The whole team's shite at this level. It's a reactionary video, and it is all about what we think. You know, we can all say, we've all got our emotions running through us and saying, yeah, we're crap, we got beat 5-1. Ultimately, it's never a good scoreline to get beat by, but when it comes down to it, we've got another Rodgers, Kennedy out, Martinez and Maloney in. That's not a bad shout at Wexford, and I think that that's something that the Celtic board may be considering at some point in the future. Ajax, big centre half, was on the ball. He was better striker than Adamida. Yep. We sat off them. Yeah. Anyway, I don't think I can go on with this much longer. I've done it 20 minutes. Keep saying this for months now. Time for Kennedy to go, says David. Yeah. I just don't know what he brings to Celtic. Anyway, we'll be back with what Brendan Rodgers says first thing tomorrow morning. I suppose we'll go live at 9 o'clock Celtic Park time to talk over this game again in a bit more depth and without the immediate pissed off reaction, because I think that's what we all are. And I'd love to say let's have a fantastic evening, Celtic fans, wherever you are over the world. Let's get that off the fucking screen. Celtic have been hammered by Ajax 5-1. It's never a good scoreline to get beaten by in a pre-season friendly. especially at this late stage of the pre-season. What does it tell us about the readiness of the team for an important game in 4 weeks' time? Is that we're not ready. And on that note, try and have a fantastic evening, Celtic fans, wherever you are. And I'll see you tomorrow morning.